Good morning, I'm Gretchen Ho. It is a Wednesday, the 11th day of June, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Let's get to the stories that matter today. The Senate has decided to send back the articles of impeachment against Vice President Sara Duterte to the House of Representatives. However, senators emphasize that this does not equate to dismissal or termination of the case. Now, prior to that development on the impeachment trial, lawmakers in the House of Representatives have adopted the recommendation calling for plunder, technical malversation, and bribery charges against Vice President Sara Duterte. The case involves the alleged misuse of confidential funds under her office. And PNP Chief General Nicolas Torre III has highlighted a new era of cooperation with the Commission on Human Rights. Let's discuss that and more with General Torre later in the program. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda, the Senate has voted to return the articles of impeachment against Vice President Sara Duterte to the House of Representatives. Here is the full story.
With a vote of 18-5, the articles of impeachment against Vice President Sara Duterte will be sent back to the House of Representatives. 18 senators voted in favor, while 5 opposed. This came after a motion by Senator Bato de la Rosa to dismiss the impeachment complaint. That motion was immediately challenged by Senate Minority Leader Coco Pimentel. According to Pimentel, it was against the law. He emphasized that the Senate has a constitutional duty to deliberate on impeachment cases as only the Senate is mandated by the Constitution to act as the impeachment court.
Wala po tayong choice but to respect, lalo na ito, we fall squarely under this subparagraph 4 which I just read. We have to respect the decision of the overwhelming majority of the members of the House of Representatives.
He added that if the Senate proceeds with the trial, the evidence related to the charges against the impeached official will surface, allowing them to make a decision based on that evidence.
The trial will give that impeached officer the chance to clear his or her name and at the same time maybe rebuild his or her reputation.
Senator Risa Hontiveros also objected to the Duterte's bloc's motion to dismiss the complaint.
I too object to the motion of Senator Judge De La Rosa. A motion to dismiss is not found. Hindi po nahahanap itong motion to dismiss sa Rules of Procedure on Impeachment na literal ka-adapt lang po natin. At kung mayroon man, hindi Senator Judge ang magre-raise nun, kundi ang defendant. Si Vice President Sara Duterte ang dapat mag-raise niyan.
But De La Rosa responded,
if this impeachment court has the power to dismiss an impeachment complaint, walang silbi itong korte na ito, Mr. President. That's my opinion, Mr. President. Ano bang gamit ng korte na ito kung hindi inherent yung power niya to dismiss? So that's my humble legal opinion, although I am not a lawyer.
Hontiveros also explained that before the impeachment court decides, the prosecution and defense should first be informed so they can submit their comments. Some senators expressed they wanted the impeachment proceedings to continue.
Kailangan ay ilitis kung ito ba ay makatarungan o hindi. So, gagawin lang natin yon ngayon. Kung kulang na talaga sa oras, pass your papers, hindi natapos, hindi na natin saklaw yon dahil pwede natin sabihin, ginawa natin, hindi lang nagkaroon ng desisyon. Wala naman nagsasabing kailangan may desisyon.
Senator Alan Peter Cayetano weighed the gravity of Senator Bato's request to dismiss the impeachment.
Mabigat tong puntong ito. That's my appeal to Senator Bato na mabigat desisyonan ng dismissed based on it has not been filed that we violated the Constitution na mahigit isang beses tong final.
Because of this, Cayetano requested that De La Rosa amend his motion, instead of dismissing it, to simply remand or return the articles of impeachment to the House. At first, De La Rosa refused, but in the middle of the debate, he agreed to Cayetano's proposed amendment. That, however, was opposed by the minority bloc. Hontiveros questioned why the articles had to be returned to the House when the Senate could simply ask for a response to the issues.
Remanding is a functional dismissal. Return is a functional dismissal. Para po sa akin, parang dinribble natin ng matagal tapos ipapasa natin ulit ang bola. Hindi po kailangang ibalik ang articles of impeachment sa House of Representatives.
This will not and does not constitute a dismissal because afterwards, after we settle this issue, and I think Senator Judge Cayetano also clarified that, the same is true with Senator Judge Villanueva, this is in no way a dismissal because we will be issuing summons after this.
Bakit dinadala kami sa dismissal, remand, return, whatever is the term, Mr. President? Hindi ko alam bakit kailangan tayo bakit ba tayo namimilipit na ipasok ang isang word that is a synonym or can mean dismissal?
In the end, when the matter was put to a vote, the majority prevailed. The articles of impeachment will be returned to the House. But this does not mean the impeachment complaint is being dismissed or terminated.
Let's unpack the legal implications of that move by the Senate. We are now joined by UP Constitutional Law Professor Dan Gatmaitan. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Gretchen.
Okay, several things to unpack here from the statements of our good senators. But let's begin with first assessing what happened. Yesterday was quite the whirlwind, from the oath-taking to the convening of the court to the remanding of the articles of impeachment. Did you expect it to go down that way?
I don't think anyone legally expected that to happen. Although we've heard rumors about it, the day before. I think the logical conclusion here was for the Senate to proceed with the trial of the Vice President. Therefore, that's what we were expecting.
Okay, but from a legal standpoint, is the remanding of the articles constitutional? Is that word even there?
Word is not there, and I don't think it's constitutional, for the same reason that I mentioned earlier, because this thing is supposed to proceed to trial. And based on what they said yesterday, the remand or whatever you want to call it, it's done to give the House an opportunity to explain if it in fact complied with the Constitution. It's kind of insulting if I was the House, no? If I were the House of Representatives, all of they follow the Constitution, and I expect the House to make that statement. The problem is some senators are raising constitutional issues, and it's not for the impeachment court or the House to settle these issues now. These issues that were raised are already pending before the Supreme Court, and they have somehow managed to bring them up here as if the impeachment court had some authority to settle these matters.
Actually, meron nga po akong nakita na post online na sinasabi nga po, which made me think, na why is it the senator jurors asking about the constitutionality of this complaint or the impeachment articles? At hindi mismo si Vice President Sara Duterte. Kung sila ang tatayong mga jury dito, bakit doon pa lang napag-uusapan na yung constitutionality? It shows some bias towards the articles of impeachment even before the trial begins.
Exactly. That's why we were expecting the trial to begin, to give the respondent, Vice President Duterte, a chance to raise these legal objections. It is for her to raise them. And what we've been seeing ever since her impeachment are certain members of the Senate lawyering for her. It's anomalous. It's illegal. It's the ground. These are grounds for recusal.
Nevertheless, we are at that choke point, and the Senate has said they have 2 points they want to raise. Tama po kayo, dun sa unang punto ay constitutional nga ba itong fourth complaint dahil inupuan yung unang tatlo. At yung pangalawa naman, for the Senate to know if the 20th Congress feels the same way about pursuing the impeachment trial. I want to go to the second point because the first one is about the legal issue surrounding it. Paano nga po ba yun? Ano? Kung uh, iba na yung ihip ng hangin dito sa 20th Congress, what happens now to the articles of impeachment brought about by the 19th Congress?
Legally, the House has already performed its constitutional duty. The issue has been passed to the Senate, and the Senate, according to the Constitution, should try the Vice President. I don't understand, or my colleagues don't understand, why you have House, whether they're still interested in it or not. At least they can determine whether the Senate will perform its duty as an impeachment court or not.
Pero dahil tatawid po ito sa 20th Congress, the prosecution would be filled up by congressmen from the 20th Congress. So, in a way, yung composition of the House, who was responsible for this impeachment trial to begin with, mag-iiba rin. So how do we settle that in terms of pag natapos na ba yung trabaho ng House of Representatives, tapos na at naipasa na talaga yung bola, hindi na pwedeng ibalik, or sabi nga nila pinagtatalunan din nila yung ibig sabihin ng remand na we are just clarifying.
Yun na nga. You can't. There is no space for that, for whatever the hell the Senate did last night, di ba? Can we clarify? Ang trabaho po ng Senado dyan is to try the Vice President. Ngayon, may change ng composition sa House. That's true, di ba? But so far in the news, we've heard that the House has made adjustments, especially because the certain members of the prosecution panel were not re-elected. Yun na yung trabaho na. It's to make sure meron kang prosecutors. And that's it. And so far, based on what we've seen from the House, they're interested. And they really shouldn't concern themselves with that. Kung nag-try sila, tapos hindi sumipot yung mga prosecutor, then maybe that's the answer they're waiting for. But we should give the House an opportunity to appear before the impeachment court.
Okay. Solgen Florin Hilbay gave his comment on this online, and he said that constitutionally, if the House withdraws, if they respond and they withdraw the articles of impeachment, they are constitutionally within their powers. If the House rejects, then proceed, or rather, if they withdraw, then it is effectively a functional dismissal. What would you say about that? And even Senator Hontiveros said remanding is a functional dismissal.
Well, there would have been a strong argument to that effect, except that the Senate kept on insisting that that's not what they're doing. So the Senate should be bound by those assurances that we are not dismissing the case.
It does feel that it could be a dangerous precedent for future articles of impeachment, that it could go down this route na pwedeng pagpasapasahan at sabi nga ni Senator Bato de la Rosa, walang silbi ang korte na ito if hindi inherent ang power niya to dismiss. I mean, even...
There's a problem
go ahead.
there. There's a problem there kasi yung function ng court is to find either, make a ruling, it's either she's guilty or she's not. I don't know why he's concerned with dismissing the case so much. Diba? Kasi ang basis niya kasi is constitutionality. In which case, they should go to court. Not decide these issues on their own.
It's either conviction or acquittal lamang with your point of view.
Yun ang silbi ng impeachment court.
Pero yun nga po ay it seems that this is thriving in the gray areas. What can the people do now about this? That I guess that's the question. Pag dribble ay anong pwedeng gawin?
Yung sinabi mo kanina about being bad president, that's true. Everything we've seen so far from the side of the Senate leads to that conclusion. Yung wala kang gagawin, i-dribble mo, at ibabalik mo pa. I think political na yung mga solution diyan, di ba? Is to pressure your Senate to make sure We want them to do the right thing, etc. To make sure that this thing is concluded in the right way, constitutionally, hindi yung by magic tricks na gawa nila so far.
But attorney, let's talk about scenarios. What could the House do at this point?
Oh, the House can reply. They, of course, will follow the Constitution, no? Parang ang nangyayari ngayon is everything that's being done is open to a legal challenge. Can the Senate return the impeachment articles? Pwede kang magsampa ng kaso dyan eh. Can the, kung hindi sumagot yung House, can they be held to account? Abuse of discretion ba yan? Ito yung tamang gray areas because instead of following what the Constitution says, they tried a lot of new things, and in the process, you are creating new legal issues. What are the scenarios? Isang katutak na kaso yan.
Okay, so ultimately, do you think this will be settled in the Supreme Court?
Yes. Even if may finding ang impeachment trial court, whether it's guilty or not, there are already a lot of procedural constitutional issues that are popping up. So, in the end, the court may have to step in.
Okay, if this leads to the 20th Congress, which it ultimately will, and they reject the Senate's proposal for dismissal, or some of the senators' proposal for dismissal, and they send it back, does it have to be in the same form, the articles of impeachment? Because you can only file an impeachment case once every year. So dapat po ba pareho, walang dapat baguhin, or mag-iiba yun? Dahil technically parang hindi na 19th, 20th na eh.
I think it should be the same. Kasi they will be vulnerable to a challenge. Sabihin nila that violates the 1 year rule. Hindi naman to yung whether bago na yung Congress eh. It's literally a year. So hindi mo pwedeng baguhin yan. Pag nagbago ka dyan, sabihin nila that violates the 1 year rule because that is a different impeachment complaint.
Okay, so it has to be the same form of impeachment articles. But I am actually quite confused now because sabi naman din ng Senado, hindi ito dismissal, hindi ito termination, at tinuloy pa yung summons kay Vice President Sara Duterte at pinagpapaliwanag din yung defense. So, what are your expectations on the way forward from here?
Well, insofar as nag-issue sila ng summons, diba? Then legally, the Vice President is obliged to respond to that. Ang problema lang, yung remand creates certain legal uncertainties. Ano ba talaga ibig sabihin nun? And like everyone else, you're right, you're confused. Everyone's confused. Because of what the Senate did last night seems to be a contradiction, di ba? Binalik mo, and yet you're requiring the respondent to reply. So, I'm just as confused as you are.
Pero, Professor, this actually reminds me of what happened with Senator Laila de Lima na ni-remand din yung decision ng Sandigan Bayan back to the court that decided on her acquittal. Parang pinalilinaw yung basehan para mas laliman pa yung pagpapaliwanag. Hindi ba nangyayari din naman yan sa mga korte na nire-remand din talaga kapag hindi mo maintindihan o mayroon ka mga provision na naguguluhan na duty nung nagpasa sa iyo ng kaso or desisyon na ipaliwanag ng mabuti yung mga bagay-bagay.
Okay, but we're not, okay, one, pag sa korte, usually i-remand mo yan because additional evidence is required or may decision yung lower court na mali kasi i-reverse ng Supreme Court halimbawa. For example, sabihin ng lower court, wala kaming jurisdiction on this issue. Kasi sabihin ng korte, well, of course we do. So i-remand nila yung kaso so that the trial court can try the case. Okay? But in this case, impeachment, hindi naman evidence ang i-require nila eh. Ang tinatanong nila, did you violate the Constitution? And that is not the subject of a remand, even if it is it can be legally done by the impeachment court.
So it does not, function in the same way.
Yes, it's different. Iba yung nature kasi ng impeachment trial eh. Kaya say, pahingi pa nga ng facts. Andyan na nga eh. Because the Constitution says, pag over 1/3 yung vote na supporting yung impeachment, yan na yung articles of impeachment. The document.
Ultimately, at its core, it is different. The impeachment being political, a political exercise in practice. So I guess we will be subject to headwinds. Hopefully not too much, but as we try to get things clear by the day, maraming salamat muna for your thoughts on this, on what happened yesterday over at the Senate plenary floor. We have UP Constitutional Law Professor Dan Gatmaitan. Now, as we know, the Senate voted to return the articles of impeachment against Vice President Sara Duterte to the House of Representatives. The 18 senators who voted in favor were Alan Peter Cayetano, Bato de la Rosa, Bong Revilla, Amy Marcos, JV Ejercito, Bongo, Lauren Legarda, Robin Padilla, Jinggoy Estrada, Francis Tolentino, Joel Villanueva, Pia Cayetano, Lito Lapid, Cynthia Villar, Mark Villar, Mig Zubiri, Rafi Tulfo, and Chis Escudero. Voting against the motion were Senators Coco Pimentel, Risa Hontiveros, Nancy Binay, Grace Poe, and Sherwin Gatchalian. Now don't go away. We'll be back with more stories right after the break. Matters here on One News. The House of Representatives has adopted the recommendation to file charges including plunder, technical malversation, and bribery against Vice President Sara Duterte and other individuals in connection with the alleged misuse of confidential funds by her offices. Here is the report.
The House Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability has recommended the filing of charges against Vice President Sara Duterte. According to the committee, the Vice President may have committed technical malversation by allegedly using confidential funds for purposes not aligned with their intended use. She is also being accused of perjury for submitting a notarized certification claiming the funds were used for confidential activities, a claim the committee believes to be false. The panel further recommended bribery charges based on allegations that white envelopes containing cash were distributed to Department of Education employees. A possible plunder case was also suggested in relation to the alleged misuse of confidential funds amounting to 612.5 million pesos. Former DepEd Special Disbursing Officer Edward Fajardo, along with other officials, was also named in the committee's recommendations. According to the report, there were also concerns about possible falsification and use of falsified documents, as well as corruption involving the illegal disbursement and poor liquidation of funds. The committee believes these actions may amount to betrayal of public trust and even culpable violation of the Constitution. These findings came after the committee investigated the alleged misuse of confidential funds by the offices of Vice President Duterte from 2022 to 2023. Among the other recommendations of the committee are reforms to address loopholes in Joint Circular No. 2015-01. They are pushing for stricter documentation requirements when liquidating confidential funds, tighter qualifications for special disbursing officers beyond agency head recommendations, and stronger penalties for any misuse of confidential funds.
Vice President Sara Duterte is in Malaysia this week for a personal trip with her family. The Office of the Vice President confirmed that Duterte will also meet with overseas Filipino workers on Independence Day, that's June 12. The Vice President will conduct a program consultation with OFWs during her visit. This comes at a politically sensitive time as the Senate remanded the impeachment complaints against her to the House of Representatives. Duterte's camp earlier said that they were ready to face all the allegations. Meanwhile, the International Criminal Court has rejected a request by former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte to disqualify 2 judges from ruling on his challenge to the tribunal's jurisdiction. Duterte's legal team had sought the disqualification of Judges Maria del Socorro Flores Liera and Rain Adelaide Sophie Alapini Gansu. In a decision dated June 9, the plenary of ICC judges unanimously dismissed the disqualification request after deliberations. With the petition rejected, the case will now proceed to address Duterte's claim that the ICC no longer has the authority to investigate alleged crimes committed during his administration's war on drugs. Stay tuned. Morning Matters will be back after a short break. Good morning, I'm Gretchen Ho, and here on Morning Matters, we talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind the headlines. PNP Chief General Nicolas Torre III has emphasized a new era of cooperation with the Commission on Human Rights. In a historic courtesy visit and attendance at the Commission's flag-raising ceremony this week, Torre said, quote, "The CHR is our boss on the protection of human rights." He assured the public that the police force under his leadership will have high regard for human rights. CHR Chairman Richard Palpal Latok welcomed the PNP Chief's expression of commitment to respect for human rights. Let's discuss that further with the new PNP Chief himself. We have him on the show, Police General Nicolas Torre III. Welcome back to our program.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning again, Miss Gretchen. Ako
Chief.
yung starstruck pa rin sa'yo.
Ganun ba? Mula sa KOJC hanggang sa...
Mula sa KOJC. Hanggang sa first appearance ko
grabe,
rito.
dami na pong napagdaanan. Pero huli pong beses na nandito po kayo po ay CIDG Chief.
yeah.
Ngayon po PNP Chief. Sabi po ng ilan, parang ang laki po ng tinalon nyo. Sabi po ng mga kritiko, syempre nagulat po sila, nasa mga ikling panahon, mula Davao hanggang sa CIDG, hanggang sa top ranks of the PNP. Ano po masasabi po ninyo?
Well, wala talagang ibang daan. Kasi at the end of the day, my retirement is fast approaching. So, ganun talaga. End of career na ito ng mga pwesto.
Kailan po kayo magre-retire? If ever kayo po ang isa sa mga mahabang serbisyo, ano?
Well, my mandatory retirement is on March 2027.
So that total of how long?
Well,
if
kung
you
tuloy-tuloy
compute it?
ang serbisyon to hanggang sa ako'y mag-retire, that will be 1 year and 9 months.
Matagal.
Medyo.
Oo. Pero it also gives you room to do a lot.
Yeah, I hope so.
With the PNP. Okay. Kayo rin po ang kauna-unahang PNPA graduate na magiging PNP chief.
Yeah.
How does that change things? I mean, what would you do different under your leadership?
Foremost, medyo malaki ang pressure. Kasi siyempre, ang mga co-alumni ko ng PNPA ay lahat ay umaasa, all eyes on you, all eyes on me. And of course, yung iba pang mga sector, critics and supporters alike, are all having so much high expectations. So sa side ko naman, I do believe na ang aking experience bilang frontline policeman since my junior years, na palaging na-assign sa frontlines, will give you an edge in crafting the more responsive policies para magamit ng organization not only sa pagsiservisyo, kundi para na rin sa kapakanan ng mga tao sa baba at mga tao within the organization.
Galing nga po kayo sa ground, ano? I
Yeah.
mean, all the way to the top.
Yeah.
What would you carry with you? Na mga mahalagang lesson, ano? Mula nung, I mean, sa pag-obserba po ninyo sa lagay ng PNP.
Kung mapansin mo, ang mga internal affairs na mga policies na pinalabas ko na ngayon, una ay inward-looking. Aside from, of course, the 3-minute response na ipinangako natin sa ating mga kababayan in compliance to the directive of the President for swift and visible police response. Para magawa yun, I have to look at the I should be inward-looking in the operations of the PNP. So, ibig sabihin, yung mga magkikarry out ng mga tao doon, kung yung mga taong nasa frontline na mag-actual na mag-implement itong mga programs na to, naintindihan ko ang mga challenges na kinakaharap nila. For one, the long duty hours na sobra-sobra ang oras sa pagtatrabaho na wala namang binibigay ng mga alternative na mga paraan para sila ay magkaroon din ng oras para sa pamilya, para sa personal, para sa kanilang mga anak. So ngayon, yung 8-hour duty, yung 3 shifts, tapos ngayon, tinitingnan ngayon natin yung
Dati po laging overtime.
Yeah, always overtime. Kasi kung titingnan natin, ang oras dati is 12 hours per day ang trabaho, 12-12. One time lang nagbe-break in a week. So that is 6 times 12. So that's 72 hours. That's overtime by so much number. 3 days actually na overtime yan kung ikumpara sa mga tao nagtatrabaho ng 8 to 5, Monday to Friday. So sa ngayon, ginagawa natin, yung 2 days duty, 1 day off at 8 hours per duty, that will give them 36 hours per week. Pero makukompensate naman yan sa requirement ko that they come on duty 30 minutes before and they leave duty 30 minutes after for the reportorial requirements. And pag sila ay yung nakakomply doon sa sinasabi natin mag-intervene sa mga insidente, makahuli sila, maka-aresto sila ng tao, dadalhin nila yan sa piskalya or sa istasyon muna. Ibubuking, may medical at idokumento. Prepare sila ng affidavit of arrest, pupunta sila sa piskalya, magtataas sila ng kamay doon. Pagkatapos, pag halimbawa for filing, ang tao ay madidetain sa istasyon. So, after how many days, darating ang commitment order, dadalhin nila kung saan i-commit yung tao. Could be in the BGMP or in the local city jail. So, mas maraming mga trabaho pa na administratibo na on top of the operational na trabaho nila because kaakibat nitong pagpapatrolya mo, pag ikaw ay talagang nagtatrabaho ng tama, makakahuli ka talaga ng mga taong dapat hulihin. So, pag nahuli ang mga yan, ang papeles na kasunod at ang subsequent na mga testimonya sa korte, dagdag trabaho, overtime pa rin ng pulis.
Tama po ba na magbibigay po kayo ng confidential fund? I mean, parang bilang reward din dun sa mga police na ginagawa po lahat yan, yung buong proseso.
Actually, hindi reward yan eh. Based on the regular disbursement ng pera ng PNP, meron talagang mga allowances yan. Meron talagang pera
Pag
yan.
nakahuli.
Hindi sa reward nila, kundi pag nakahuli ka, automatic dadalhin mo ang tao sa piskalya. Merong rata yan. Merong rata yan.
Pero may confidential fund po na ibibigay.
Well, ang confidential fund kasi, discretionary yan eh. So, may mga...
So, pwede.
Kahit na discretionary, may mga specific pa rin na mga activities na pwedeng ibigay dyan. So, it could be a reimbursement ng kanilang operations. Paano nila nahuli yun? So, may cost yun, yung trabaho na yun. So, we could reimburse them. Or, at the very minimum, yung rata talaga, mabigyan sila ng suporta na pag sila ay pumunta sa korte para magtestimonya, sila ay pumunta sa piskal, or sila ay mag-transport ng kulong na to sa kung saan nila dadalhin na detention facility, hindi naman sila bubunot ng kanilang pera sa bulsa nila na galing sa sweldo. So, I just would like to make it very easy and very rewarding for our policemen para naman sila ma-inspire na magtrabaho at ibigay ang frontline na produkto diyan sa ating mga kababayan.
So, police welfare.
Police welfare. In
At its
exchange
core.
in exchange of course for the 100% performance that I'm demanding from them.
Pero syempre, ito nga po yung pinagmumulan nung agam-agam nung ilan na maaaring parang ma-incentivize no, yung pag-aaresto mamaya. Arbitrary arrest na lamang ang gawin para makakuha ng performance metrics bilang if that will be the performance metrics under your term, baka kung sino-sino na lang o kahit kumbaga pasta pa lang huhulihin na sila. How do you prevent abuse of that?
at the outset naman, lahat naman ng trabaho natin na-incentivize. Lahat naman ng trabaho, bakit? Ba't gusto mong pumunta sa mga delikadong trabaho? Kasi gusto mong magka-medal-valor, gusto mong magkaroon ng spot promotion, mga ganon. So, dito naman sa case na to, yung sinasabi nilang baka maabuso ang pag-i-encourage ko ng mga pulis na mang-aresto ng mga nakikita nilang wrongdoers dyan sa kanilang mga areas, dapat maintindihan ng ating mga kababayan. Unang-una, ang mga taong yan, huhulihin mo at ihaharap mo sa piskalya. Okay? Para magawa mo yan, pipirma ka ng papel, affidavit of arrest. Yung affidavit of arrest na yan, on record yan. At it can be disputed by the defense lawyers. Mabibigyan ng copy yung inaresto mo. Yung inaresto mo ngayon, yung copy na yun, ibibigay niya sa mga abogado na magtsatsani nung lahat ng sinabi mo ron. Kung magkamali ka ng sinabi ron o hindi totoo sinabi mo ron, at makounteract nila ng CCTV, makounteract nila ng witness, makounteract ng cellphone video. Nakasalalay sa dulo ng ballpen na ginagamit mo sa pagpirma ng affidavit na yan ang buong buhay mo. Pwede ka matanggal, pwede ka pang makulong.
Kumbaga may accountability papers.
Yes, grabe ang accountability dyan. Lalo yung sinasabi nilang, baka naman mamaya magplanting ng droga ang pulis. Uy, sa ating mga kababayan, sa mga kapulisan, i-remind ko lang, incriminatory machinations, planting of evidence, especially drugs, kung merong death penalty yan. Dahil walang death penalty, life in prison po yan. So, nasa pulis ngayon yan. Kung itataya niya ang kanyang susubok siya na para makakuha ako ng puntos sa affidavit of arrest, gagawa ako ng ganitong kalokohan. All or nothing yan. And it's not even worth it kasi the risk is so great na I don't think anybody will do it. In his right mind will do it. And, mali. Ba't mo gagawin? Mali na nga eh. Ikaw ang sabi ko sa mga pulis natin, ang trabaho natin ay alisin ang kriminal sa kalsada. Ngayon, bakit ka naman gagawa ng isang bagay na ikakakulong na hindi naman kriminal? So, you're failing in 2 counts. You are removing somebody who is not a criminal in the first place. And second, you are jeopardizing the whole operations by diminishing the credibility of the whole operations of the whole organization of the Philippine National Police.
How will this collaboration be with the Commission on Human Rights?
Yeah, ito ngayon. Human Rights, pumunta talaga ako sa kanila on last Monday at nag-pay ng courtesy call because sila ang pinakauna na nag-voice ng ganong alarm, ng ganong concern, which is consistent with their mandate na to make sure that the government operations, especially the law enforcement, which is the first contact of the populace to the criminal justice system, to keep us in check. Kaya nga sabi ko, sila ang boss namin. Kasi may oversight function talaga sila sa law enforcement. And we do respect that. And we welcome that oversight function. Kasi ako bilang Chief PNP, hindi ko basta-basta magagawa yon on my own, together with my internal disciplinary machinery. Best talaga na nandyan ang Commission on Human Rights to actually look upon us, especially on me, bilang policymaker nitong mga 220,000 policemen sa PNP, so that to ensure na may outside person,
Sasama
parang
po sila
auditor.
lagi? Sasama po sila lagi?
Well,
Or
they're always
how will
welcome.
they be present?
They're always welcome. They're always welcome to join actual operations. Pero, well, obviously, ang pinakatrabaho talaga nila bilang oversight organization, isang organization na nag-exercise ng oversight function sa amin, is to ensure that our policies are consistent with the human rights regulations, the human rights laws of our country.
Sabi rin po nila, actually this was published, I think, a few months ago, na nahihirapan po silang i-reopen yung mga cases kasi because of the lack of PNP cooperation. When it comes to sharing information, access to records, police reports, other pieces of evidence, dun sa 4,000 cases ng EJK deaths or unexplained deaths, paano niyo po mapapaliwanag yun?
Sa part ko, I assure them 101% cooperation in all the investigations that they want to conduct. Okay? On my part, there's really no reason for me or wala akong nakitang rason para i-block ko ang investigation because investigations per se is finding out the truth, knowing the truth, and actually giving justice to victims na humingi ng hustisya. Yun naman ang pinaka-basic na trabaho ng pulis. Yun naman ang pinaka-basic na trabaho ng criminal justice system natin. At lalong-lalo na sa CHR, wini-welcome ko yun sapagkat they are our partners in ensuring na magkaroon na ng closure itong episode ng sinasabi nilang maraming namatay, maraming nabiktima na hanggang ngayon ay humihingi ng hustisya.
Pero gaano po kahirap ba makakuha ng ebidensya? Kasi knowing that it's law enforcement that is involved here at yung imbestigahan, kasama na yung mga polis. Pag ini-interview po namin sila, sinasabi nila lagi, mahirap kumuha dahil nga in the first place, wala nang ebidensya, sila may hawak na ebidensya, gano'n.
Priorities. And then, yung priorities and the strategic directions. Wala akong nakikita rason para i-block ang investigation. Again, no. So, I will cooperate with whatever
They need.
Now, on the part naman ng internal affairs sa PNP, there's a possibility also that lagi ang sinasabi dyan is Article 11, justifying circumstances. Bakit namatay yan? Kasi nakipaglaban sa pulis eh. Pero, baka at the end of the day, may isang mag-atribido na maglakas ng loob na, kasi ginawa namin yan dahil may utos eh. Ayun ang hinihintay ko na may lumabas. Article 12 ang papasok doon, except in circumstances, they are under duress. Pero, well, yeah, those are the things that I expect or I anticipate na baka lang may dumating dyan. At pag dumating ang panahon na yan, anong gagawin natin? Shall we condemn these people who follow the orders? Or shall we find a win-win solution that will, bottom line is, find closure to all these cases, but at the same time, give reparations or justice or semblance of justice doon naman sa mga naging biktima at dito naman sa mga tao na mga gumawa at sumunod, magkaroon naman ng possibility na sila magkaroon na rin ng closure, mawala na yung sword of Damocles sa ulo nila na, ay salamat, natapos na rin ito. Dahil sa ngayon, ako'y naniniwala na marami na mga miyembro ng ating organisasyon, ng PNP, na ganyan ang iniisip. So, both ways, it is destructive. Lagi silang may reservations and hesitations. May bagaheng binibitbit. Ayun. Kaya yun ang hinahanap ko ng paraan na ang bagahe na mawala, pero hindi pwedeng mawala ang accountability, hindi pwedeng mawala ang liability. So, kung paano natin i-redress, bigyan ng hustisya, yung mga nabiktima na yan, so that yung liability na yan ay malesen, ang mga accountability na yan ay ma-neutralize. Yan ang hinahanapan ko ng middle ground on how, what kind of program I will initiate to ensure na yung mga nag-agrabyo ay may hustisya at yung mga supposedly may sala ay matapos na rin ang kanilang mga kalbaryo sapagkat ako'y naniniwala din na hindi lahat sa kanila ay willingly ginawa nila.
So, but sabi nyo nga sa isang interview, no, mabigat yung badge ng ilan sa mga kabaro po ninyo dahil sa nangyari noong Duterte administration. I mean, ano po bang nangyari noon? I mean, can you describe to us? I mean, was it a lot of pressure?
Trick question, Gretchen. Nakita ko na trick question mo. Ang bottom line na sagot dyan, hintayin natin kung anong trial sa ICC. Lalabas ang lahat ng yan kung ano nangyari noon. So, it's for the prosecution
Pero willing po ang PNP mag-cooperate with the ICC on this? Kung hiningi po nila.
Policy pa rin ng gobyerno ang mananaig. Sa ngayon, ang nakatayo, ang policy dyan is that we are not a member of the ICC. We don't have any treaty obligations with the ICC kasi naka-withdraw naman tayo during the Duterte's time at si former President Duterte mismo ang nag-withdraw sa atin. Right now, everything that we do na may semblance ng cooperation or connection sa ICC ay through the Interpol. Kasi sa Interpol, hindi naman tayo nawala. Interpol is always a platform for us na yun nga ang ginamit din natin para maibalik sa bansa si Arnie Teves at ngayon ay gagamitin din natin or posibleng gamitin natin para pabalikin din sa bansa ang iba pang mga wanted na nandyan sa labas. So, it's just a matter of time before we get all of those guys. But bottom line, we are always working within the auspices of the Interpol.
Speaking of lawful arrest, you are pushing for that, right?
Yeah, of course. Always.
Under your term.
Always.
But your critics would say that that is not what happened during the arrest of the former president, na hindi siya nabigyan ng pagkakataon na dumulog sa mga korte natin dito bago siya naipadala sa The Hague. Ano po ba yung gano'n?
Well, that is a question na pag ibinigay mo sa 5 abogado, makakakita ka ng 6 na opinion. Kasi may isang abogado dyan, dinidebata yung sarili niya. So,
pero hindi po ba nasa karapatan ng tao? Nasa karapatan ng civilian?
I don't think we can resolve that in this...
Bago niyo ako ipadala sa ibang bansa,
I don't think we can resolve that in this conversation. Kasi napakarami ng mga
masyadong
abogado na
maikli ang oras natin. Baka sa susunod po na interview kasama si Ed Lingaw, pwede. Teka, magbe-break muna tayo. Dahil umagang-umaga. Siyempre, kasama pa rin po natin ang bagong PNP Chief, Nicolas Torre III. We'll have more of this conversation. Morning Matters will be back right after a quick break. Good morning. Welcome back to the program. We still have on the show Police General and now PNP Chief Nicolas Torre III. Welcome back. Meron po bang mandato ang presidente sa inyo? Sa inyong pagpasok? Ano pong nabanggit niya?
Well, the only time that I talked to him is when he told me that I'll be the Chief PNP and that lasted around mga 2 minutes, 5 seconds. And of course, yung pag-uusap naman namin nung ako ay naging nasa turnover, yung konting time na nag-usap kami wala pang 10 segundo but the most na ibinigay niyang guidelines, yung mga nakuha kong mga guidance sa kanya is during his speech during that turnover ceremony. So doon ko kinuha ang lahat ng mga cues na ginamit kong basya ng mga programs natin ngayon.
Meron po mga nagsasabi na ito po ay ang inyong pagiging PNP chief ay reward doon po sa mga high-profile arrests katulad kay Pastor Kibuloy, kay former President Duterte. What would you say to that?
Well, at the end of the day, lahat naman ng posisyon, reward. Di ba? Lahat ng mga naunang chief PNP sa akin, reward yan. Reward for their job, reward for their hard work, the whole of their careers. So, nakita ng Presidente na sila ay sila ang tamang tao para sa pagiging PNP chief, so sila ang in-appoint. In the same manner na sa akin, nakita siguro ng Presidente na ako ang tamang tao sa posisyon na to, he appointed me. So, bakit? Sino bang, alam nga namang kaaway ng Presidente ang kanyang ilalagay na PNP chief or kritiko niya ang ilalagay na PNP chief. So, di ba? So, it's great.
Mukhang masaya po sa inyo, no? Itong administrasyon, katulad na lamang ng DILG. Si John Vic Remulla, sinabi nga po niya, gusto ko lang po kayo makuha reaction po ninyo. Sabi niya, he's a bulldog, a pit bull. Everybody should be afraid. When you tell General Torre to attack, he attacks.
Hindi ko maintindihan kung ako pinupuri ni Sir John Vic sa ARG or inaasar niya ako dyan. But ako naman ay, ano ba ang sinasabi ng Code of Professionalism? Di ba? Ang Code of Professionalism, minimemorya yan sa kadete. Men who take up the profession of arms on their own free will, submit themselves to a law of perpetual constraints. Di ba? Yan ang nakalagay doon eh. Tapos ang sinasabi doon, they give up their right. Ito na ngayon, a lot of rights that we give up because of this job. You give up your right to dress as you like. Hindi ako pwede magpahaba ng buhok. Otherwise, may problema na ako. Di ba? Gugupitan ako ng mga seniors ko. To say as they like. Hindi ka basta-basta. Maraming ganun din eh. Ganun din. Especially sa inyo sa media. Bakit? Can you speak as you like? Na hindi dadaan sa... Otherwise, you have to resign your position and when you're in the outside, you can dump to your heart's content. But as long as you are in this organization, ito ang guidelines, ito ang stringent, pagtaas ng kamay mo, na you took the oath, in the same manner with you, na you signed the contract, dun ka iikot sa trabahong yon, sa sinumpaang yon. Although, siyempre, may mga privileges ngayon na na-acquire mo together with that contract, together with that liabilities, may mga privileges ka. So, to get these privileges, you have to give up certain rights. Okay? It takes but one order to uproot us, uniformed personnel, nakalagay yan. It takes but one order to uproot us from one place and bring us to another place. So, basically, ganun tayo. Kung ano ang mission, yun ang ating gagawin.
Isa po napansin po namin dito sa newsroom, kayo po ay wala pong tiyan. Pagpasensyaan nyo na, no? Kasi yan na sa ibang PNP chief, pinag-iinitan nila mga pulis na may tiyan. Meron po ba kayo along that route na polisiya? Seryosong usapan? Because nga, maraming beses naging issue po yan sa mga pulis.
Sabihin ko sa aking sa finance at saka sa controller, i-review ang subsistence allowance. Huwag natin anong pakainin natin mga pulis, jejetahin natin sila, courtesy of Gretchen Ho. Pag kayo nagutom, tandaan nyo si Gretchen Ho. Ito yung rason kung bakit nawala ang subsistence allowance.
Hindi, ako lang tanong niya kasi si Ed Lingaw, di niya ba tatanong
So may turo kay Sara Ed, no? But seriously speaking, part ng batas ang nakalagay pag ni-research nyo dyan sa RA 6975, nakalagay sa qualification of policemen. Nandun, Filipino citizen, with moral character, were not convicted for things of moral turpitude, baccalaureate degree, etc., etc. Nasa dulo, nakalagay, must be plus or minus 5 kilograms of the standard weight and height and age. Nakalagay sa batas. So, policemen, to qualify as policemen, must fall within the plus minus 5 kilograms of the standard height, weight, and age. Nandun sa batas. Hindi ko sigurado ang exact words, pero yun ang isang requirement doon. Hindi ka pwede sobrang taba, hindi ka pwede sobrang payat.
I-implement nyo ba yun?
Of course. Batas yun eh.
Ano?
So, well, ako standard. Pag ako'y tumaba na at lumampas na, pwede na sabihin. Pero habang ako'y nag-exercise, habang ako'y nag-dieta, wala naman sigurong rason na sumunod naman sila sa batas. Basically, pagsunod sa batas yun eh.
Okay. Kayo po ay nagta-target ng 5-minute response time. Unang-unang tanong, sapat ba ang ating resources at ang manpower to practically, realistically achieve?
Nagawa na namin
Yung
yan.
5 minutes.
Nagawa na actually yan. Hindi tina-target. Ginagawa na namin actually. It's just a matter of,
Pag kami
strengthening the
tumawag
policy.
sa 911 ngayon,
You can call 911. May sasagot sa'yo na police.
kahit saan pong parte ng Pilipinas,
Merong 27 o 28 na 911 centers na nakakalat sa mga major cities, no? Pero sa mga areas na walang, kasi yun ang ginagawa ng mga telecom natin, may parang geolocation detection. Na pag ikaw ay nasa Manila, ang bagsak ng 911 call mo nandun sa Paltok, sa may Barangay Bungad, sa Paltok, Quezon City, sa may PLDT doon. May automatic switchboard sila doon. Dati nandun ang call center, pero ngayon switchboard ang naiwan
hindi,
doon.
paano po kung yung mga liblib na lugar,
Kung
probinsya?
liblib na lugar na walang 911, kung halimbawa nasa Davao ka, ang 911 ay nandun sa Davao City mismo. Kung sa Pangasinan ka, meron parang sa Lingayen or sa, hindi ko na nasundan kasi under sa isang grupo ng DILG program yan eh.
Pero
So,
kaya po ng 5 minutes?
we can try. Call anybody in Quezon City.
Hindi, anong
Tell me the name
anong
of-
realistic po? Hindi, kung hindi po dito sa syudad, kung sa probinsya po.
Of course, ganito. Case-to-case basis naman yan, no? Sino ba ang naghahanap ng 5-minute response? Sino ba ang naghahanap ng 3-minute response? Yung 3 to 5 minutes response? Sa urban centers na naman eh. Dahil, ano ba ang mga tawag dyan? Nagkabanggaan, may riot, may gulo na kailangan mapuntahan, may nang-hold up. So, yun yung mga may lasing na alas 3 ng madaling araw ay nagwawala. So, yun yung mga nire-respondihan natin. Basically, in urban centers that never sleep. Okay? Ito
So, yun po ang focus nitong-
Doon ang focus natin. Kasi pag nandun naman sa...
Nagagawin niyo po 3-minute response time.
5 ngayon ang sinisimulan and 3 minutes ang ating target dyan. Kasi naman, pag nandun naman sa liblib na lugar, ano ang mga insidenteng mga nangyari doon? May encounter ang insurgents at saka ang mga sundalo at pulis.
Nakawan. Pwedeng nakawan.
Pwedeng nakawan. May mga ganun. So, on those areas naman na mga wala sa urban centers, andun naman ini-strengthen natin ang ating mga force multipliers. Meron tayong mga barangay. Meron tayong ini-establish na mga patrol bases ng ating mga mobile forces.
Okay.
So, yun ang magpo-provide naman ng responde sa ating mga kababayan.
Gaano katagal po bago ma-achieve ang 3 minutes?
Well, you can call your friend in Quezon City right now on the air. Tawagan namin sa radyo ang ating command center,
Pero
and we send a policeman to that friend of yours within 3 minutes.
Paano niyo po bine-verify yung mga tawag na dumarating? Kasi sigurado ko marami ring prank dyan.
Maraming prank callers, pero yun nga ang sinasabi ko naman sa ating mga kababayan. Yung 911, enhanced 911 yan, yung revitalized 911, ang system dyan, may kasama dyan yung prank detection, at alam mo yung mga bot, tumatawag ang mga bot sa
Sa 911.
May mga numbers na tumatawag sa 911, mga 100 calls in 1 minute. Bot. Pero automatic na detect ng system. Tapos yung mga tao naman na prank lang ang ginagawa, ang gustong gawin, nadidetect naman yan, binablock namin. So pag na-block na ngayon yan, pag may tunay ng insidente na kailangan mo na ng 911, hindi
Ano
ka na
po ang crimes
makakatawag.
na pwedeng itawag sa 911? Paano po kung wari na scam ako online? Pwede ko itawag sa 911 yun?
Well, pwede mong itawag at pwede ka namin i-refer sa tamang ahensya na makakatulong sa'yo. Pero ang bottom line dyan, pag halimbawa ikaw ay nabiktima at kailangan mo na responde, 911. Pero kung ikaw na biktima, hindi mo naman kailangan responde, na-scam na ang pera mo, punta ka na sa ACG para makuha ang statement mo at subukan natin na ma-recover ang pera na yan. Yun naman ang mga normal na mga ginagawa natin dyan. Investigasyon, nandyan na sa mga opisina natin.
Sabi po ni PNP Chief Marbil na ang one of the greatest accomplishments sa kanyang term ay itong internal cleansing, no? Pero marami na rin pong chief ang nagsabi na ginawa nila yun. Maaari ba kami magkaroon ng konting detalye kung anong internal cleansing yung nangyari sa ilalim ng pamumuno niya?
Well, ang internal cleansing naman is a continuous process. Continuous operation yan, continuous program yan. At ako'y nagpapasalamat kay General Marbil na during his time, he really emphasized on it. Sinisiguro niya na ang mga pulis na lumalabas sa pamantayan sa mga panuntunan ay talagang nadadala pabalik sa internal disciplinary machinery in such a way na sila ay napepinahan, sila ba ay nasususpindi, sila ay nadidismiss.
Kasama po ba dito
man.
yung mga involved sa EJ case? Or pag sinabi po nating internal cleansing, medyo general din po kasi yun.
Yeah, lahat yun. Kasi grave misconduct yun eh. Pag ikaw ay nag-commit ng murder, that's grave misconduct and you can be separated from the service aside from the fact na pwede kang itatry ng civil courts para ikaw naman ay makulong.
Kayo po ay may 1 year and 9 months. Tama? 1 year and 9 months to go?
Yun ang mga...
Oo. Ano po ang gusto niyo maging tatak, no? Bago po kayo umalis? What would you want?
I'll just let history judge me. Sa akin naman, wala man tayong iniisip na kung ano man ang legacy na iiwanan natin.
Vision na lang po for PNP.
Vision? The PNP vision. Yun, hindi na ako mag-deviate sa PNP vision talaga na we are committed to the vision, di ba, of establishing this police service na talagang will be delivering the correct services to our mga kababayan natin. And guided by the mission naman, the PNP shall enforce the law, prevent and control them, etc., etc.
May paparating na po ba ng mga bagong warrants of arrest mula sa ICC?
Tanong ko muna sa ICC. Talagang mga tanong mo naman eh.
Binibiting ko lang yung mga viewers dahil po pagkatapos po nito ay siya naman po ay sasabak sa long take kasama ang ating senior veteran anchor Ed Lingao, kung saan mapag-uusapan po ito lahat. Pero sa ngayon, konti lang ang ating panahon dito sa Morning Matters. Thank you so much once again, PNP Chief General Nicholas Torre III for being with us today.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay.
And thank you very much sa mga viewers patuloy na suporta sa atin. Ito pala, pagbigyan mo na ako at nandito na rin lang ako. Sa ating mga kababayan, makikita niyo siguro, baka sarado na yung mga police station natin. So, may pinamemorize ako sa ating mga tauhan at ito ay nakalagay sa aking calling card talaga. Ito yung sinasabi ko sa serbisyo natin, bottom line, para sa serbisyo na paghingi nyo ng mga responde. Huwag nyo na kaming hanapin sa mga presinto sapagkat kami ay nasa inyo ng mga telepono. Dahil 911, darating kami sa loob ng 5 minuto. Pwede, no?
Rhyming.
Yeah, para madaling memorize. Yun ang policy natin.
Antayin natin yan. Pagkatapos yung mga tiyan naman.
But ang bottom line dyan, the next time that I'm here, call a friend in Quezon City, and at the end of the day, pag okay na sa kanya, napuntahan siya ng police, tell me the name, tell me the address, and in 3 minutes, may darating na police, papakita natin ang kanyang actual na images, video, dito sa program. Kasi ang taong darating sa kanya ay mayroong body camera.
Okay po yan.
Good enough?
Good enough.
Yeah, sige.
Pero we'll
Fair
see
enough.
if it is achieved.
Yeah. Right now, it can be achieved. Yeah.
That wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you the right start to your morning. Let's go ahead and make the day matter. My name is Gretchen Ho. We're One News, all sides, all the time.